Coding with AI or vibe coding is cool, but what is not cool is the bugs and security issues that come along with it. Sure, AI can create really great websites and SaaS products in record time, but here's one thing that most people don't realize. Just because AI can write code, it doesn't mean that the project it creates is completely bug-free. There could be hidden issues, broken flows, security vulnerabilities, or even issues that only shows up when you interact with the app in unexpected ways. Well, this is where TestSprite comes into play. TestSprite is an AI-powered testing agent that automatically scans your entire project to find bugs, detect vulnerabilities, and tell you exactly what's wrong. And not just that, it can even suggest fixes as to how to solve the problem as well. It can do both front-end and back-end test, and the best part, you don't have to write a single line of code. The AI does everything and gives you a complete report in minutes. And now here comes TestSprite version 2.0, which actually brings quite a lot of changes to the table, including the ability to test your product directly from the IDE. Let's say like Cursor using their MCP server while you build it, the ability to schedule, test and run it periodically, and a lot more. And of course, you can also use their web interface where you can enter your app details, and within a few clicks you can run a full comprehensive test covering everything like the backend and front end, including functional test, edge case test, UI test, response validation, error handling, and a lot more. So let's quickly get started. So this right here is TestSprite, and this is the AI powered software testing agent that I've been talking about. So the first thing that you gotta do is to click the first link in the description below and head over to testsprite.com and go ahead and sign up for a new account. And if you use the first link in the description below, you will get 1 month free access to the starter plan. So definitely make sure to make use of that too. And now as you can see, it says TestSprite MCP is now live. So it means that you can add the TestSprite MCP and configure it in your code editor, let's say like Cursor. And as you build your application, you can now run a full-fledged comprehensive test directly within Cursor, or let's say whatever IDE that you're about to use. And I'll show exactly how to do that later in this video. So first thing first, go ahead and sign up for a new account. And let me quickly go ahead and log into the same. So once you log in, you'll be taken to the dashboard, and this is where you can go ahead and create a test and run it, and you can sort of use their web interface. And now I'm specifically interested in their MCP tool. So what I'll do is I'll click on this option that says TestSprite MCP. And now it says, let your AI code will make it work. Turn your AI generated code into real working software with our autonomous testing agent built right into your IDE. Okay. And now I'll show you how we can configure TestSprite MCP and add the same to Cursor and also use the same. So let me quickly go ahead and open my Cursor project. So here I have opened up Cursor, and this right here is a project that I've been working on. So let me quickly go ahead and show you a demo. So this right here is a simple AI chat assistant application that makes use of, let's say, OpenAI API. And here we have a nice landing page, and we have, let's say, a about page. And also if I click on this try now button, it takes me to this page where I can access and use my chatbot. And if I go ahead and let's say send some message, our AI chatbot will respond to us. And one interesting feature right within this app is that the AI will stream the answer as it responds. So for example, let's say, can you explain how CPU work, and hit enter. So as you can see, AI is streaming the answer onto the screen. So basically this is the core functionality of this app right here. And now I created this app just as to show you how we can use TestSprite MCP. So this is like a fairly simple basic Next.js based project that I created. And next step, to install the TestSprite MCP tool, all I gotta do is to head over to this page right here, that is testsprite.com/solutions/MCP, or click the MCP button on the home page, and I can find an option that says install now, and I'll simply click on the same. And now it says Cursor users can now install TestSprite in one click. And you also find an option that says add to Cursor. And now if you want to read the documentation, you can head over to the docs page right here, but you don't have to do that because I'll show you how we can set it up. So first thing first, I'll head over to and click on this option that says add to Cursor. And now a pop-up something like this appears, and I'll click on the option that says open Cursor. And now it says MCP tools, and it says the name is TestSprite and the command. And now it is asking us to enter our API key. So to make use of the TestSprite MCP tool, you gotta go ahead and generate an API key within TestSprite, and now add the same in here in the variable value section right here. And for that, all you gotta do is to head over to your TestSprite dashboard, and towards the left side, you can find an option called as API key. So I'll click on the same, and now I'll click on new API key, and let's say Cursor 2 this time, and I'll click on create. And now it has created a API key, and now all I gotta do is to copy the same. And it says you'll have to securely copy the key above and store it in a safe place because you won't be able to view the same again. And now I'll head back to Cursor, and paste my API key in this section right here. Okay. And now I'll click on the install button. It says loading tools. And now as soon as this dot turns green, it means TestSprite MCP is ready to roll. So let's wait for it. There you go. It says 6 tools enabled and we have our TestSprite MCP tool enabled. And if I click on this button right here, these are all the individual TestSprite testing tools that we can access right within our IDE. And now this is where the real fun begins. Maybe I'll quickly go ahead and close all of these. And now this right here is our application. And now if I go ahead and send a message, our app works without any problem, right? So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and make a deliberate issue, or let's say a bug. So I'll simply go ahead and enter some random characters in this API key section right here, and I'll save the same. And now if I go ahead and let's say try to use the app, it won't work because the API key is incorrect, right? All right, so as you can see, it is not giving us in response, and we also have this error in here. Okay, and now let's say in this case I actually created this deliberate error all by myself, but in your case it could be the error could be something else. But whatever that be, next up I'll go ahead and open a new chat and I'll go ahead and say, can you please test all the API endpoints within the app and create a test report. So I basically just went ahead and told, can you please test all the API endpoints within the app and create a test report. Oops, create a test report. And now I'll hit enter and let's wait for it. And now it means that as you develop your app using Cursor, you can now carry out all these testing operations using TestSprite right within your IDE without having to use any other external tool. So it says, I'll help you test all the API endpoints in your chat app and create a comprehensive test report. Let me start by exploring the code base to understand the API structure and functionality. And now it says, now I'll use TestSprite to comprehensively test your chat app's API endpoints. Based on my analysis, your app has one main API endpoint. I mean, it figured out itself that we have one API. And now I'll click on this run command. Okay, it says, now I'll bootstrap TestSprite to test your API endpoints. Let me set up a comprehensive testing for your chat app. And now it says calling TestSprite bootstrap test, and I'll click on run tool. And now it opens up a test configuration page right here. And now in the case of authentication, so for this particular API, or let's say this API route that we have within our app, that is this one right here, we don't really have any authentication in place. So I'll put the authentication type as none, and the dev server is running at localhost 3000. So that's there too. And now the only thing that you have to add yourself is a product specification doc. So if just in case if you don't already have one, you can head over to Cursor and then go ahead and ask the AI to create a product specification doc for your specific API, or let's say the product, and hit enter. It will then create a comprehensive document and you can add the same in here. And it says select your product requirement document, and it supports PDF, Markdown and other formats. So in this case, I have already created a documentation and it contains all the details as to how our API works, the response format, the structure, how it uses, everything else. And I'll simply go ahead and drag and drop the same in here. So in your case, if you have multiple files, you can upload all that in here. And now that's pretty much all that you have to do. So here you can select that is backend mode and frontend mode. So in this case, we are only testing the backend, more specifically the API route. So I'll select the mode as backend and the scope as code base. And now I'll click on continue. Okay. And if I head back to Cursor, all right, so that's captured. And now it says, I need to start your Next.js development server and then create a code summary. Okay, so maybe I can, let's say, close this development server and I'll click on open terminal. And now as you can see, our app is now again running in localhost 3000. And now it says, now I'll generate a comprehensive code summary for TestSprite to analyze your code base. Okay, so I'll click on run tool. So it has basically went ahead and analyzed the entire project and detected the tech stack that we are using, the language, the framework, what are the, let's say, packages that we have, code structure. It creates a document, or let's say a summary file. As you can see, it says summary.json. And if if you look at your project now, you can find a new folder called as TestSprite test. And if you open it up, you can find all the files that the AI is creating, or let's say TestSprite is creating. And now it says, great, I created the code summary. Now let me generate the PRD and then create comprehensive test. Okay, I'll click on run tool. TestSprite is basically going to create a PRD, that is product requirements document for our app. So let's wait. Okay, that's also done. And it says, now I'll generate a comprehensive backend test plan for your API endpoints. I'll click on run tool. Alright, so that's also done, and it says now I'll generate and execute comprehensive API test for your chat app. Looks good. Let me click on run tool again. And now it says now I'll execute the comprehensive text generation and execution. And now as soon as I click on this run button right here, TestSprite will start testing our application and it will create a comprehensive documentation, or let's say report as well. And now as you can see, it says starting test execution. Proxy port is 61588, tunnel started successfully, and you can find the real-time progress in here. And now as you can see, the AI agent within TestSprite itself has went ahead and tested the API endpoint, and now we added a invalid API key, right? And for the same reason, we can find all that error in here. That's good. And now it says 3 out of 4 completed, 2 passed and 1 failed. And now one more thing is that even though we created this test directly within Cursor, if I head over to, let's say, my TestSprite dashboard, I'll find an option called as MCP test, and if I click on that one, I'll be able to see the test that we just did. Okay, there you go. This one right here, that is chat app, and as you can see, 2/4 pass. And if I expand the same, I'll be able to find all the test report in the web interface as well. I'll come to that later. And now it says perfect, the test have completed. I can see 4 tests were executed with 2 passing and 2 failing. And now it is creating the report in markdown format, and let me wait for it to complete, and then we'll go through the report it has created. All right, so look at that. It now says, let me check if there are environment configuration issues that might explain the test failures. Okay, so the AI agent itself went through the test report it has created, and now it is going through our code base, and it will actually pinpoint all the errors that we have and also suggest solutions as well. So here we have a comprehensive test report ready. So okay, so API endpoint tested, this one right here, that is our chat API endpoint, 50% success rate. And now it says detailed test coverage. So valid streaming response, 200 status with server sends event stream. So we have 500 internal server error, so that didn't work. Input validation did not work either. And yep, okay, missing OpenAI API key. So the critical issues identified are: the primary issue appears to be missing or invalid OpenAI API configuration. Both failing tests suggest that API is crashing when trying to process requests that would normally require OpenAI integration. So after conducting the test, TestSprite itself has figured out that there's some problem with our API key, and that is causing the major problem, like 2 problems, and it is actually suggesting us fixes as well. So the immediate fix is that you need to create a .env.local file with a valid API key and then rerun the test, and it should work is what it says. And now if I open this TestSprite test folder, I can now find the report in here. So this one right here, that is the test report in markdown format, and I will accept all. And now if I want to, I can refer to the same in here. Okay. And now if you want to find more information about the same, you can head over to this MCP test section right here, and maybe I'll just open one of these, and it says passed. And now simulate unexpected server errors during processing of API request and verify the API response with HTTP 500. So this one right here is the code that the AI used to test the API endpoint. And the good news is that we don't really have to touch a single line of code. The AI will do everything by itself. And now this right here is actually a failed test. And now you can find the traceback in here and also the reason along with the code. So basically this is how we use the new TestSprite MCP to run a test directly within Cursor. So earlier you had to go to the web interface and then click on this create test option and then put a name in here and then click on next. And then you have to sort of enter all these details like API name, API endpoint URL, authentication type and everything else. And you had to sort of do the testing in this way. And now the issue with this is that if you're, let's say, developing your app locally, there's no way for you to test it, right? And for that, you will have to deploy your app to, let's say, Vercel and then get all the details, put all the details in here and click next. And you had to do the testing that way. And now that TestSprite went ahead and launched its new MCP tool, you can now carry out all the testing operation as you develop locally right within your machine without having to deploy it. And that itself is the biggest USP or the major change that I found with TestSprite version 2.0. And now in this case, we only had one single API route in here, right? And we went ahead and tested it out and the AI figured out all the problems and it has suggested us fixes and everything else. And now in this case, I went ahead and ran a backend test. And in your case, if you want to, let's say, do a front-end test, you can do that too. And just to show you a demo, I'll go ahead and say, can you please run a front-end test to make sure everything works and create a detailed report, and I'll hit enter. and let's see. So just now we did a backend test and the AI was able to flag all the issues that we had with our tool. And now we are planning to run a front-end test and let's see how it goes. Okay, I'll click on this run tool option. So it has opened up the test configuration page, and this time around the mode is automatically selected as front-end. And now if your app requires authentication, that means only if a person enters the username and password will they get access to the app. You can input that in here, and now the AI agent will use those credentials and log into your app and then carry out all the testing operations. So development port looks good. If you have any product specifications in here, you can upload it in here, and I'll click on continue. Okay. So basically it is going through the same flow it did for the backend testing, but this time around for front-end testing. So it will actually test everything out and show you a final report. So let's wait for it. So TestSprite is now finally doing all these front-end tests, and it seems like it has planned like 15 different tests. So it will take some time. So let's wait. All right. So TestSprite is done completing the front-end test, and it took about 11 minutes and 32 seconds to do around 15 tests, out of which 11 tests has passed and 4 of them failed. And now it is creating the test report in markdown format, and let's wait for it to complete. And in a similar fashion, if I head over to this MCP test section right here within my TestSprite dashboard, I'll be able to find the details related to all the tests in here. So here we have all these passed test, failed test, the type is front end. So maybe let's say this one right here. And now as I open up one of these tests, like the front end test, I can now find a real-time video of the AI agent doing the test as well. Okay, so I can play the same. So there you go. That right there is the cursor of the AI, and now it is testing all the pages and it works. And now maybe I'll just go ahead and open a failed test. Let's say this one right here. So it says the test stopped due to inability to delete chat sessions via sidebar. Okay, let's see. So it visited our home page, clicked on the start chatting button right there, and now, okay, it tried to access one of the few chats that we had earlier and it isn't working. Okay, so that is the reason why it failed. We don't really have that feature enabled, so that makes sense. And maybe let's say access this one right here. Okay, so missing access to TypeScript type definitions. Let me play that. And now if you do a front-end test using TestSprite, you'll be able to find a video of the AI doing the test, and you can find all the errors and everything else if you want to. And that is how, I mean, even if you create a test from your IDE, that is cursor, you'll still be able to access all the details in the MCP test section right here. Okay, and now it has created a documentation in here, and it says broken navigation. Okay, makes sense. Session deletion not working. So that is, if I head over to our landing page, we have a couple of these links in here. For example, this pricing link, it leads to a 404 page, and for the same reason, as you can see, a lot of these navigation links are broken, and it has reported the same in here. And now users don't really have the option to delete the chat. Okay, so that is also being shown in here. You can now find all the key details by opening up the test report, and then you can access all the details that you need. And now if I open this file right here, that is TestSprite test report, I'll be able to find all the details. Like we have all the details in here, or you can also head over to the MCP test section right here and view all the details. So basically this is how you use TestSprite's new MCP tool to conduct both front-end and back-end test from cursor as you develop an app. So you no longer have to deploy it and use the web interface. So as you develop the app, you'll be able to test your app directly using the AI agent right within cursor. And now yet another cool feature in TestSprite 2.0 is this monitoring feature right here. And now it says keep your test running, create a schedule to rerun your test list and track their results and stay ahead of the issues without manual effort. So basically you can now schedule test, or you can even set it such that it repeats every single day, once in every week, twice in every week. You can set it up like that. And for that, all you gotta do is to start by clicking on this new schedule option right here, and you need to fill in all the information in here. But before that, you need to head over to this test list session right here, and then create a new test list. Create a new list by clicking this button right here. So here I have already created one, and now I'll click on this button that says add test, and now I can select a test. For example, let's say this one right here, and now I'll click on add to test list. So it's now added, and now I can head back to monitoring and now click on new schedule, and I'll go ahead and name it, let's say chat app. And now let's say I want to run this test on a daily basis. So I'll select the daily option. If you want to run it hourly, weekly or monthly, you have options for that. and I'll repeat it every, let's say, one day. I basically want to run it every single day. And time window, I want it to start from tomorrow all the way to, let's say, 30th of this month. I can select a time zone, time, and next up you need to select the test list that we created just now. So I'll select the same in here. And now if you want to send the test report to a specific email, you can enter that in here. And now that should be it. I'll click on the save button right here. There you go. Now I have went ahead and scheduled a test, and now it will automatically repeat. I mean, TestSprite itself will go ahead and automatically run this test every single day at this specified time, and then run the test and create a report and send it to my email. Okay, so that is basically how it works. So that is this monitoring feature. And now again, if you want to, let's say, run test in your usual way using their web interface, you can head over to this create test option, input the details in here, click on next, and then input your app details in here and conduct a normal test in a normal flow as well. And now if you want to learn how to do that, I have already created a video about that, and you can click the I button above and watch that video. And now this is pretty much all I wanted to show you in this video. And now single-handedly the biggest update is the option to run tests directly within Cursor. And now this is like a really game changer, because earlier we had to deploy the app just as to run all these tests. Right now, everything happens right within Cursor as you develop an app, and in just a couple of clicks, you can add the MCP tool and start using it right away. And now that's pretty much all I wanted to show you in this video. And now if you too want to use TestSprite to test your AI generated code, all you gotta do is to click the first link in the description below, head over to testsprite.com, sign up for a new account, add their MCP tool to your Cursor, and you can get going. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys found this video useful. If yes, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.